The world was stunned when the International Atomic Energy Agency publicly declared that, after exhaustive inspections and months of monitoring, its experts have found no credible evidence that Iran is actively pursuing the development of nuclear weapons. This announcement from the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog contradicted assertions from both US and Israeli officials, who have for years maintained that Tehran was racing toward a bomb. As global markets, diplomatic capitals, and military planners absorbed this bombshell, the geopolitical landscape shifted in ways that few had anticipated. The implications of the IAEA's finding, or lack of finding, have rippled through international politics, strategic alliances, and public discourse around nuclear proliferation. Before we dive deeper into what this means for global security, regional tensions, and US-Iran relations, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is a pivotal moment in modern geopolitics, and you'll want to stay updated with every unfolding development. The IAEA, the world's leading authority on nuclear energy and proliferation monitoring, has reiterated that its inspectors have not uncovered evidence to support claims that Iran is making nuclear weapons, despite repeated speculation and political narratives to the contrary by some governments. Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi made it clear that while Iran has nuclear material and enrichment facilities, there is no indication of a coordinated or active weapons program. This runs directly counter to long-standing claims by Israeli leaders and US officials that Tehran was on the brink of developing a bomb. The declaration came after complex satellite monitoring, on-site inspections when possible, and detailed analysis of nuclear material holdings. Although Iran has amassed enriched uranium, and some of it at higher levels than typical for purely civilian programs, that material alone does not equate to proof of a weapons program without accompanying weaponization activities. The IAEA's mandate is not to speculate, but to verify. It tracks whether nuclear material is diverted to military purposes. In this instance, inspectors have found no substantiated indicators that Iran has done so. For decades, the question of Iran's nuclear ambitions has been at the center of international controversy. Critics fear that a nuclear-armed Iran could destabilize the Middle East, spark regional arms races, and challenge the nuclear non-proliferation regime. Supporters of stricter measures argue that Iran's leadership cannot be trusted to remain peaceful indefinitely. Yet the IAEA's latest assessment undercuts the narrative that Iran is actively building a bomb and it has profound consequences for how the world understands the conflict. So what did the IAEA actually say? Director General Grossi emphasized that the agency has not found any evidence of a structured nuclear weapons production program in Iran. That does not mean Iran's nuclear capabilities are zero, far from it, but it does mean that the leap from enriched uranium stockpiles to an actual bomb is not supported by clear, verified evidence. The agency also noted that military actions in conflict in the region have complicated inspections, but the absence of proof of a weapons program remains. This finding has immediate implications for the political justifications that have fueled pressure campaigns against Tehran. For years, Israeli and US leaders have warned that Iran's nuclear activities posed an existential threat unless contained or rolled back. That argument has been used to justify sanctions, military threats, and in some circles, direct military action. Now, with the IAEA saying it has no indication of a weapons program, those narratives face an uncomfortable challenge. Analysts say this does not mean that concerns about nuclear proliferation should disappear. Iran's enrichment of uranium, particularly at elevated levels, remains a concern, precisely because enriched uranium is the key ingredient for a weapon. The difference between a civilian program and a military one, however, is intent and active weaponization steps, and it is those steps that the IAEA has not verified. Nuclear material, even when technically usable in a bomb, does not automatically mean a nation is pursuing a bomb. The announcement also has a psychological impact on the international stage. Countries across Europe, Asia and the Middle East, that have been pushing for diplomatic engagement with Tehran, now have a credible, authoritative basis to argue that Iran is not presently building nuclear weapons. That opens the door for renewed negotiation frameworks, confidence-building measures, and incentives-based approaches rather than coercive tactics. U.S. officials, for their part, face a complex political dilemma. On one hand, they have sought to reassure allies and domestic audiences that pressure on Iran is necessary to prevent nuclear armament. On the other hand, the IAEA's assessment challenges the idea that Iran is imminently developing a bomb. This could force shifts in strategy from emphasizing military deterrence to focusing on diplomatic leverage and verification mechanisms. It's also worth noting that Iran's nuclear program has long been shrouded in layers of politics, mistrust, and historical grievances. U.S. intelligence agencies and European counterparts have sometimes differed in their assessments about the pace and intent of Iran's nuclear activities. In some hearings and reports, inspectors and analysts have reiterated that while Iran may have the technical capacity to enrich uranium and accumulate material that could be weaponized in theory, there has been no evidence of a coordinated, deliberate effort to design or assemble a nuclear weapon. Beyond the direct political implications, this bombshell has economic ramifications as well. Markets, especially energy markets, are sensitive to geopolitical risk. For years, fear of a nuclear-armed Iran was priced into global oil markets, influencing prices and investor behavior. With the IAEA stating there is no evidence of a weapons program, financial markets could undergo a period of recalibration. Traders may respond to reduced geopolitical risk premiums, potentially stabilizing energy prices that have been volatile amid broader regional tensions. Yet the IAEA's findings do not necessarily mean the region's tensions will dissipate overnight. Iranian enrichment capabilities remain a strategic lever, and mistrust between Tehran, Washington, and Tel Aviv persists. The narrative that Tehran is seeking a bomb has been deeply embedded in political discourse for years, and shifting that perception won't happen instantly, even with authoritative technical clarity. In Tehran, Iranian officials have long maintained that their nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, energy generation, and medical isotope production, and not for weapons. The IAEA's statement undercuts narratives that Tehran has been lying when it says its program is peaceful, though concerns about transparency and cooperation continue to be raised by Western officials. Some analysts argue that the absence of evidence of a weapons program should strengthen compliance mechanisms and encourage Iran to allow greater inspection access, not reduce scrutiny. Historically, limitations on access, whether through suspensions of certain protocols or restrictions on snap inspections, have made it more challenging for the IAEA to provide full assurance. Continued diplomatic engagement on these technical matters remains crucial. Despite the IAEA's findings, U.S. and Israeli concerns do not disappear entirely. Both governments have emphasized other issues, such as Iran's missile programs, regional proxy networks, and conventional military capabilities as threats that require attention. Those topics lie outside the specific question of nuclear weapon development, but remain central to broader strategic debates. International reactions to the IAEA's assessment have been mixed. Some governments welcome the clarity as an opportunity to de-escalate tensions and pursue renewed talks. European nations, which have often acted as intermediaries in nuclear negotiations, may see this as an opening to reinforce diplomatic channels. Others remain cautious, noting that verification challenges persist if inspection access is limited or inconsistent. Public discourse has also shifted. For decades, fear of a nuclear-armed Iran was a rallying cry for sanctions, military preparedness, and regional defense pacts. Now, with authoritative confirmation of no evidence of a weapons program, commentators, experts, and policymakers are debating how best to move forward, whether through renewed negotiations, confidence-building measures, or continued monitoring with an emphasis on transparency. It's important to understand that the IAEA's mandate is technical and narrow. It assesses nuclear material, enrichment levels, and compliance with treaties like the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. It does not make policy judgments about regional security. Its statement that there is no verified evidence of an Iranian weapons program does not imply that Iran's entire nuclear activity is uncontroversial, but it does provide a critical baseline of fact against which political debates can be measured. It's important to understand that the IAEA's mandate is technical and narrow. It assesses nuclear material, enrichment levels, and compliance with treaties like the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. It does not make policy judgments about regional security. Its statement that there is no verified evidence of an Iranian weapons program does not imply that Iran's entire nuclear activity is uncontroversial. But it does provide a critical baseline of fact against which political debates can be measured. As this story continues to develop, one thing is clear. Authoritative verification matters in international relations. Evidence, or its absence, carries weight in diplomatic negotiations, in global security strategies, and in the public consciousness. The IAEA's confirmation that it has not found evidence of a structured Iranian nuclear weapons effort challenges familiar narratives and reframes debates about what comes next. For both supporters of diplomatic engagement and policymakers prioritizing security concerns, this moment represents an inflection point. The question is no longer merely what Iran could do, but what it is actually doing and how the world will respond to that reality. Stay tuned as we continue to break down every major development around this bombshell IAEA finding. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss key geopolitical updates and deep analysis of issues that shape the world.